that severe moment of nearly dying from being sick, I was not okay. And I was not about to fake showing up. I still showed up. I still smiled, but I was not okay. Like, I knew I was not okay. So for me, the first step is be brave enough to tell yourself, not others, but just you, that it's okay for me to not be okay right now. I'm not okay. Acknowledge the feeling, because as leader, we tend to like brush those off. Oh, I got a lot of things to do. I don't have time for this. We always have that. I don't have time for this. But at the end of the day, self-care is so important. And for you to acknowledge that, you know what, today I'm going to just stay in my pajamas. And if that means I have to wallow on my emotions, let it, process it, let it actually come out, because the more you hold it in, the bigger it becomes a beast. And next thing you know, you are out for 3 months, 4 months.
You're listening to the First Class Life Show, hosted by Lindsey Vertner, a holistic personal development show for high-achieving leaders who desire to maximize their impact while creating a life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. So grab a drink, grab your notebook, and let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the First Class Life Show, and I'm super excited to be here with the beautiful Clarice May Cregger. You may know her as Coach Claire. I know her as Beautiful Lady. Yes, and I'm so excited for you to get to know her as well. So you already know how we do. We're just going to hop right into the conversation. Welcome, beautiful, to the First Class Life Show.
I am so honored to be here. You flatter me a lot, Miss Lindsey. Well, I'm so honored to be here, and thank you so much. I'm excited to be a part of this. So I can't wait to see where our discussion is going to go.
I know it's going to be good, because she's been a guest on my other show, the Happy Hour Show, and y'all, it was lit fire. So I'm super excited to share her gems with you here in the First Class Life Show. Thanks for tuning in. And I know who you are, but I need you to peel back the curtains and tell the viewers, the listeners, who is Clarice / Coach Claire. Really, like, give us the good stuff. Take us back, girl.
Sure. So yes, my name is Clarice, but everybody calls me Claire or Claire Bear, whatever works for you. I am a very fun, creative person. I grew up in Philippines. I grew up in a very poor family. I've lived in the United States now for 11 years, actually, this year. I don't have kids. I love food. I'm a big foodie, and I love nature. I love to create things, and like I guess that's where the Coach Claire comes in, is because I just always am helping. I love people. I love women. I love everything about like empowerment and stuff. And so I grew up in a very hard life. In my past, I've gone through a lot of traumatic experience in my past, have overcame depression, suicidal thoughts, and anxiety, PTSD, sexual abuse, you name it, abandonment, rejection. It's like I freaking wore the whole thing. So So if you have gone through it, trust, I probably have gone through it. But I'm blessed because I know God has healed me and I am here. You would have never thought that I've gone through all of that. Like how she always say, I'm beautiful. It's just, I like to make sure that I show the grace that God has bestowed upon me despite everything I went through.
Yes, listen, I know we're going to get into some of those stories and talk about how you even got into your purpose, so I'm super excited to share that. But what was the earliest childhood trauma that you can remember that really impacted you? Because one thing as leaders, we often don't understand how the things we experienced as a child is driving our behaviors as adults. Mm-hmm. So what was that first memory that you truly are like, that really impacted me one way or the other?
I would say it would be my parents separating or my dad leaving. I remember the last time we were in an amusement park, we were all together. We had our family picture, and that was it. That was the last time I ever had an interaction with my dad, or last time I saw my mom. Really happy to know that her husband's still there and my little sister was there. And that was like, that really broke me. That's a great question because I never really thought about it to a lot of times until I wrote my book last year. That was a very big point of pain in my life when I saw the very first man in my life, leave me for something else, for someone else, you know.
About how old were you?
I was 7.
7. And that really
7.
does something. So at one moment, he's present for 7 whole years. And then you guys are at an amusement park. And after y'all left, he went someplace else?
Yeah, so my dad is a overseas worker, or what we call it in our country, Philippines, is OFW. He's an overseas Filipino worker. So he's already been out. Like he was stationed in Guam because he's a Navy SEAL. And so we knew that he was gone, but he called us, he sent us gifts, and he was still involved in our life. And that last time that he came and visited us to spend time with us was the last time I ever saw him. I ever got to talk to him. Sometimes I don't even remember his face. I mean, we rekindled now, but it's not the same. Yeah. You know, I mean, at such a young age, that was a very crucial age for me because I'm looking for that guidance from my parents. And because of that, my mom went through hell herself. You know, she was going through life, raising 2 daughters in a third world country by herself.
Listen, I told y'all this is going to be a good show, and we are hopping right into it, okay? So at what point did you realize my dad is gone? He's not just at work right now, but he's absent. He's missing. He is not in our lives anymore.
I think I realized that when I started seeing my mom begging my dad to come back. When I started seeing my mom putting empty plates in the dinner table, hoping he would come back. Like we would set the table and we would set a plate for him when we know he's not coming back. Like, you just know, you know, and like the conversations with him started to diminish more. I don't even remember having conversation with him like at all afterwards until I was like grown, like my age now. And it was like, he was there and next thing you know, he was gone. Like he didn't exist. And all he did was send us money and that was it. He was never involved anymore.
Whew. So what do you think that did to your sense of self-worth, your belief about yourself, to have this father just disappear from your life?
Wow, that's a deep question. I would say I struggled with rejection and abandonment. And then from that stems codependency. And then next thing you know, I started feeling like I have to try really extra hard just to get the approval of someone. Because I got bullied at school for not having a dad. I would come home, girl, with my uniform all muddy because I was so bullied that I have no father. And that I would never come to anything because I have a broken home. You know, and so it was rough, but that was one thing that really hit me, is that if my own dad can't really accept me, then that means I have to work 10 times harder for people to accept me.
Oh, listen, that is a whole lesson in and of itself, because I remember one time I was on social media and there was this girl, this was a while back, but there was this girl that had posted, "There's no such thing as daddy issues." And like, I was triggered. I intellectually did not respond to that. because I already knew. I said, Lindsey, you're going to go off. This is not the time nor the place. And I have a feeling she's not going to be receptive to whatever you have to say. But unfortunately, we do have mommy issues, daddy issues, parental issues if both of your parents were absent. But it's important that we identify where they stemmed from and how they grow in our lives, because you started to struggle with rejection and abandonment and codependency. And that can show up in different ways in how we run our businesses and how we behave as leaders in our intimate relationships, in our friendships, and all of those things. So how did that look like for you? That I didn't say that right, but you get what I mean. What did it look like for you as you started to exhibit these behaviors of rejection and abandonment and codependency?
I would say, let's start at like around 8 or 9 or 10. I'm into performing arts. So I love art, sing, dance, everything. And I would always try really hard for auditions and everything. And when I get rejected, I feel like an absolute failure. Mm-hmm. Like, and then it just like eats me so much that it's like, what the heck? I mean, I can't even do that. I can't even, like, it was horrible. And then so like when it comes to like friends, I would overgive to where I have nothing left. Like I'll give just so that you could stay. And then when they leave, I'm heartbroken because it's like I did everything I could and you still left me. Yeah. You know, and then came with my marriage, same thing. I got so codependent on my husband that I completely blocked every friendship that I could possibly create because I didn't want that man, because now that's a man in my life. And I wanted to hold him so bad, and I became controlling of things. And then next thing you know, it's like I am just shoving things on him like, hey, let's do this. And then not knowing that it's like I'm literally pushing him away because I was so afraid of losing again. Same thing with my business. I try way too hard to like, oh, I'll give you this. Yeah, freebie here, freebie there. And then next thing you know, I'm struggling again. I'm people pleasing so that people don't leave me, knowing that it's like I've already worked hard enough that I know my value does not come from just a person or an event or a memory or a moment. I always say I don't live for a moment anymore. I just live for the day and the time that is in there and that's present. So I would say that would one thing that it affected me a lot because it almost cost me everything.
Are you loving the First Class Life show? Then join our private Patreon community. Not only will you help to support our ability to provide you with great content, but you can also get exclusive perks like bonus videos and resources, discounts, episode transcripts, and more. So what are you waiting for? Join today at patreon.com/First Class Life. Again, that's Patreon, patreon.com/First Class Life. Almost cost you everything. And I don't think we realize that constant people pleasing is it's an indicator of a low sense of self-worth. Because I can definitely relate. I had an absent father, like he wasn't in my life at all. And I knew who he was. He'd pop up here and there around my childhood. But I didn't even call him dad until I left for college. I probably saw him 2 or 3 times a year, and it was so awkward. Well, it wasn't awkward, but it was crazy because when he was around, I was like, "Ooh, I'm so excited! My dad's here, like daddy's girl." But then when he wasn't, I was resentful, and I didn't realize this because I'm a child. I just know that I felt sad that I couldn't see my dad every day when other people could be around their dad. And don't get me wrong, my mother was amazing. Like, she was supportive, loving, caring. Like, she did the best she could, and I got all the love and attention from her that I needed, except there's still something about that absent parent that triggers our subconscious. And so that started my cycle of not feeling good enough. Obviously, I didn't know it as a child, but that is my ongoing lifelong limiting belief of not being good enough, because I struggled with that same thing of people pleasing and wanting everybody to like me, because in my subconscious mind, if everybody likes me, then I must be good enough for my dad. Or if I achieve at this and get good grades, then I must be good enough for my dad. Or if I excel in this area, then I must be good enough for my dad. But it never came around to that. And so it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, like, I am good enough. And it wasn't anything to do with me of why my dad wasn't around. And I had to learn, and I had to realize how it showed up in my life with people pleasing, with perfectionism, with procrastinating, and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, oh, girl. How did you begin to heal yourself? Well, first, let me back up. How did you begin to identify that that was the problem first? Because a lot of leaders struggle in that area, even identifying that, wait, I'm struggling with rejection and abandonment, and I'm trying to people please, and it's all because of ... So we understand we got to figure out the source, usually a childhood experience, but then how did you begin to identify that, oh, wait, this is what it is. This is what's happening?
Well, I would say, like, just like the last comment that I said, that I nearly lost everything. It was really at that time in my life, I would say 4 or 5 years ago. It was when I lost everything, to where my husband and I separated. I mean, we reconciled, but we separated, and I lost my job. I had no friends. I have nothing, and it got to the point that all I had was me, myself, and I had to reevaluate and really look at, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what is it? You know what I mean? I started attending classes. As a coach, we need help, So I went to what we called Celebrate Recovery, and it's a year-long type of, like, Christ-centered coaching, recovery, that brings out, like, those childhood trauma and really makes you understand. Like, I didn't really know what codependency was until I started attending those classes, or like self-reliance and all those big words, because I felt like I just had issue, but I didn't know what the issue was, And so I would say it was at that time when I started understanding that it's like what I was doing was actually really affecting the outcome of what I'm trying to achieve. And even now, to this day, I still have relapse moment, when you're like, okay, I need to, like, kind of back up, but to like know that like what you're going through, and to just pull myself out of that and, like, refocus and, like, come back to, like, okay, we can't really do that, because that's us going back into the same old habits. And so I would say 5 years ago was when I discovered that, when I started figuring out why I lost everything.
Yeah.
And what I could change.
We really have to do a lot of self-reflecting and self-awareness, and just being willing to heal those past experiences so that we can grow and improve. So now we've identified the source. We've identified how it shows up in our lives. Now, what are some tips that you can share as far as overcoming it? We do know that is a lifelong process. It's an ongoing journey. You're always, kind of shucking and jiving here and there, ducking here, But what are some steps to help maintain it? Because we can control it, or we can, start to understand, oh, wait, it's popping up. Like you said, oh, I need to step back a minute because I'm starting to go back to those old ways, so we can better recognize when it is popping up and how it's affecting us, and course correct a lot faster than when we don't understand. So what are some of those tips?
I would say there's 4 things that I always use. I even put this on my book. Was the first step was just to release. Know that something is wrong. We oftentimes, as entrepreneurs and leaders, we feel like I can never be wrong. Like, I've already done this so many times. But it's like to release and understand that there's an issue. And there's nothing wrong with discovering that there might be an issue. It's best to, like you said, like, it's best to see that right offhand rather than later on. So for me, the one thing is to just release, whether that's writing in my journal, reevaluating the things that I'm doing. You know, we often give our clients like, oh, let's do self-check. Like, you need to practice those things that we're teaching our clients, you know, like self-check, like, okay, how did I react in this situation? Why did I react in that situation? Like, really ask yourself, take yourself out of yourself in a sense, like be the third person and ask yourself, like, why did I react in that way? And how did that make me feel? Like, those things are so important. So release and reflecting is important. And then once you have reflected, you can refocus and understand like, what? Okay, now it makes sense. This is the same habit I was doing before. Journaling is so important. I always tell people like journaling is your best, like, let me go back and see how I reacted because that looks familiar. And you have to just stay diligent when you know you've gone through trauma. You have to stay diligent to pay attention to the things you're doing. Are you doing it out of because of business plan, or are you doing it because you want to just keep that person, even though you know there can be toxic, you know, like those things you have to like really pay attention. Pay attention to your moves, your motives, your why behind it. Journal and reflect, and then just refocus and do it all over again. You know, I mean, you can't really like stay there forever when you feel like you've fallen short. Like, I could tell you now, I felt like I've fallen short after I got over COVID because I was all butthurt from getting sick. And I felt like I lost clients and people, but in the end, it was like, I matter more, because if I cannot be at 100% as a leader, I am not of any value to you as my client, as my fellow leader, as my fellow entrepreneur. So those would be the things that I would say help. Journal, self-reevaluate, pay attention, and acknowledge them. Sometimes I talk to myself when I start noticing, I'm like, okay, now Claire, what the heck? Go back there. All right, now let's try to slow a roll there. That was not you. Like, and understanding like, where's that coming from? Why am I speaking that way? Am I speaking out of hurt, or am I acting out of like trauma? You know, because they're always going to be triggers. That's one thing I realized, is they are everywhere, especially if you're a social media influencer, a business owner, they are everywhere. 24/7.
And we have to be aware of what those triggers are so that we can control how they behave in our lives. Because when we aren't willing to heal them and identify them and do all the work to know what our limiting beliefs are, to know, that what's the TikTok trend, my toxic trait is, we all have things that are a little bit toxic that we can improve upon. And so when we aren't aware of those, then those pop up in our lives out of our control. Those pop up usually at the most inconvenient of times. But when we take the time to do the work, identify, heal, repair, then we can control how they pop up, or we can easily recognize when they're popping up and check it. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Exactly.
That's what we have to do. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I know that you have overcome depression and suicidal thoughts and things like that. So at what point in your journey did you realize you were depressed, and what did that look like?
Oh man, what did that look like? A lot of times media makes it look like it's all this super dramatic, like melancholy, everything is dark and like the feeling is falling. You know what I mean? It's really not like that. You can be depressed and still have a happy face on. It's an emotion that you feel, like a heaviness in your being, your soul. You just feel it. Like there will be instances that you feel like you're not functioning at 100%. People don't understand. People don't notice these things, but when you start lacking, like doing dishes, the simplest things, okay, that doing dishes, the laundry, or eating, those are early signs when you're skipping meals, you're skipping things, and the next thing you know, you're just sitting there. You refuse to hang out with certain people. you feel overwhelmed, you're just crying out of nowhere. Those are signs of depressions because it's an actual emotion inside you. It's like a burden that you don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. So for me, what it looked like wasn't like sadness, like severe sadness. I mean, I was sad, but it was more like I just didn't want to live. Mm-hmm. I just didn't want to do anything anymore. I didn't want to pick up my house. I didn't want to eat. I was eating like Burger King for an entire year when we were separated, me and my husband, because I just didn't want to have self-love anymore. I'm like, why am I going to make food? I'm just making it for myself anyways. Mm-hmm. And like, I just refuse to take care of me. When you're in a depression state, you do not see the value of yourself. So why care about you? You know, because you feel sorry for yourself, because you feel like nobody cares anyway. So why in the world am I caring for myself? So it comes not as like how the films makes it look like. It's like, bam, on your face, that person's depressed. That's why sometimes you'll be shocked when people that committed suicide, you're like, wait, how come I never saw that? Like they always smile and happy because it's never on the outside. Mm-hmm. It's always in the inside. Like there's signs that you can notice and you start picking up and you're like, okay, like I struggle at days, but now I know how to to target them. Like, oh, okay, why am I feeling that way? Like, why am I struggling even just doing dishes or putting clothes away? Like they start piling up and next thing you know, there's a deeper root why you're feeling that little depression state. And it's not like it's not a sickness. I hate when people say that depression is like a sickness because it's not. It's an absolute imbalance, something going on in a person's soul, their hormones. I mean, you name everything, their life, they're going through it. So it's like you may never know that a person's depressed because they're smiling in front of you.
Yes.
But that's not always how you know a person is depressed. It takes just legitimately asking and paying attention to the people around you, their actions. Are they even showering? You know what I mean? Like, did you even put your makeup on? Like, when you start noticing a friend of yours or a girlfriend of yours that always is dressed up, always have their freaking makeup on, and always have their self together, and then one day you invite them for breakfast and they're just in their little hoodie, they might tell you like, oh, I just wasn't feeling it. You know, I was too tired. Mm-hmm. Those are signs. You start picking up on those things and then you start noticing they kind of fall off. They're not on social media. They don't text you. Like those things are like depression. That's depression right there. Is the absolute isolation from others.
I'm glad that you pointed that out because it was some weeks ago where I saw it was a quote on social media and it said, people don't fake depression, but they do fake being okay. And I don't know why. I was just like, ooh, that is so, so true. And I think that can resonate with a lot of leaders as well. Because like you said, you know, we hear about these celebrities that commit suicide and you're like, what? And it's like leaders often have the pressure of leading and we don't want to let people down. And usually leaders are, you know, perfectionists and people pleaser. And, you know, we want to change the world type of thing. And so a lot of times there can be leaders walking around with high functioning depression, which means you're not staying in the bed for 2 weeks and starving yourself and laying in the darkness all day, every day, but you're showing up and you're still smiling and you're still doing the work. But on the inside, you feel the darkness, you feel exhausted, you feel empty, you go home and you cry yourself to sleep or cry in the shower and you dread getting out of bed in the morning, but you still show up. And I think that that is important to begin to identify whenever you are feeling those emotions, because you can still be showing up, but yet be depressed. And so I'm glad that we were talking about this, because it's important for leaders to know that if I am not in my typical mood more often than not, then it's maybe a sign that I should seek some help.
Absolutely. I agree.
Looking for amazing products to help boost your first-class lifestyle? Then head over to firstclasslifeshop.com, where you can treat yourself to personal development books and workbooks, lifestyle affirmation cards, adult coloring books, mugs, notebooks, hoodies, t-shirts, leggings, and more. All products were designed to help you master your mindset, walk in your purpose, and live your first-class life because you deserve it. So treat yourself today at firstclasslifeshop.com. Again, that's firstclasslifeshop.com. So what were some of those steps that you took to start to make a change in your depression and seek that help?
I would say for me was to be brave enough to say, I'm not okay, and not feel judged, because there's courage that you have to tell someone, even as a leader, I'm not okay. I literally just told my friend that like probably a week ago, because after that severe moment of nearly dying from being sick, I was not okay. And I was not about to fake showing up. I still showed up. I still smiled, but I was not okay. Like I knew I was not okay. So for me, the first step is be brave enough to tell yourself, not others, but just you, that it's okay for me to not be okay right now. I'm not okay. Acknowledge the feeling, because as leader, we tend to like brush those off. Oh, I got a lot of things to do. I don't have time for this. We always have that. I don't have time for this. But at the end of the day, self-care is so important. And for you to acknowledge that, you know what, today I'm going to just stay in my pajamas. And if that means I have to wallow on my emotions, let it. Process it. Let it actually come out, because the more you hold it in, the bigger it becomes a beast. And next thing you know, you are out for 3 months, 4 months, a year. And the next thing you know, your business is not booming anymore. And then that puts you in a catapult of more depression. So acknowledging it right away is important. Second, reach out. If you have people that you trust, that who can understand you, but not judge you and not berate you for not feeling 100%, tell them, like, hey girl, I don't know, I haven't been feeling myself. And then talk it out, talk it to other people, because you might be surprised that, like how you said, Lindsey, there are high functioning leaders out there who's going through anxiety and depression. They just don't know it. And then by you doing that, by you talking about it, you not only inspire someone to be brave themselves, but you now have someone you can do life with. And you can overcome these things with, that you're not alone. Oftentimes we feel like, oh, I gotta like just do this and I have to just show up and I have to just do it all alone. Like, no, you don't. And there's strength when two becomes one. Trust. And the last thing I would say, like the way I overcome it, is just be out there. Just be out there. Like, even though you don't want to be out there, be in the nature. Like, go for a walk. Feel the sun. My husband was making fun of me because I walk my cat in a leash. Okay, she's like a dog. And so 2 days ago, I was in my feels because I've been so overwhelmed. And I'm like, okay, God, like, what is this? Like, I can't get out of the funk, and just, I stood there, and then it was so windy, and just being in that moment, even if it's 5 minutes, and just hear your surroundings. We're so busy on the go that we forget we are living in the now, that it's like, feel the air, literally, and hear the birds, hear the cars, hear the sirens, everything. Just like feel your entire environment and ground yourself. I am alive. And this is my moment right now. This is it. And it's okay that I'm in this predicament right now, because this is not the end yet. That's the best part, is it's not the end. Mm-hmm. This may be the moment right now that you're feeling wallowy. You're feeling like, I'm not making progress. But guess what? you've already done the worst part. You've already acknowledged it. You've already reached out, and now you could just be in the moment and then take it one step at a time. That's it. So I would say those were the things that I really try to practice as much as I can, because even when you're riding in your car, roll down that window and feel that cold air on your face. You know what I mean? Like feel, see, and hear everything, because that's what's going to ground you and make you feel you are alive and that you have a life to live to.
Yes. And that goes right along with just being mindful. I love that you said to like feel, see, and hear, because the more that we can bring in our five senses into what we're doing, it only activates our whole body even more and deepens our experience. It immerses us into whatever it is that we're doing. So we have to use our five senses when we're creating goals. We have to use our five senses when we are trying to ground ourselves and be aware. I know, like when it's warmer outside, sometimes I just like to go out and lay down on the trampoline. I have to make sure my kids don't find me, because then they think, oh, mommy's jumping, and they want to come jump. And I'm like, no, I wasn't jumping. But sometimes I will do that a few times in the summer, where I'm just laying there and I'll either look up and just watch the clouds go by. You know how we used to do when we were kids, lay in the grass and look up at the sky and say, oh, it's a heart in the cloud. But I'll watch the clouds go by, or I'll close my eyes and just feel the sunlight beaming on my face. I'll listen to the birds or listen to the sway of the tree leaves. And so it's important that we are mindful in those moments, have those mindful moments. When we can do them outside, it's great. But if you, for some reason, can't get outside, do it inside. Like right now, I can hear, if we're quiet, I can hear the whir, the little murmur of the heater, because our heat is on. And if I'm really quiet and I stop talking, then I could probably hear my puppy like breathing in his sleep. So we can do it inside. We can do it wherever we are. But definitely, I agree with you as far as getting that outside fresh air, at least 5 minutes a day, longer if you can. But those are some good tips. Y'all, ain't she good? Ain't she good? Listen, I think that this would be a good time to play a little game. Okay, are you down? Yes.
I am down. Let's play a game.
Awesome. Let me pull up my timer, because we're going to play what I call first class favorites. Okay. Now, I love to do this because we actually, nope, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, I'm going to tell you later. But how we play first class favorites is it's really easy. I'm going to give you a prompt and you're going to fill in the blank of what is your favorite, ... Okay? The kicker is you have to answer in 10 seconds or less.
Oh, okay. Sounds okay.
Our brains, it does something crazy whenever we add timers and stuff. So you have to answer in 10 seconds or less. And for those of you that are tuned in for First Class Favorites, you already know, feel free to make a game out of this. So if she misses the buzzer, you got to do something. You got to do a jumping jack, do a push-up. You got to shout out an affirmation, or you got to take a shot of whiskey or a shot of water. It don't matter. # no judgment zone. Okay. So are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
All right. We'll start you off with something easy, and this has to be specific. So you can't give like vague, general, overarching things. Right. You got to give specific answers. Okay. So if I was like, what's your favorite music? You can't be like R&B. Specifically, what song? Okay.
Oh, we're going that way. Okay.
Yes. All right. Oh. What is your favorite food? Go.
Rice.
Oh, rice.
I love rice.
We're going to let you have that one. What specific way do you like to cook your rice or eat your rice?
I like to eat my rice with like a fried rice. There you go. I like fried rice. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I like shrimp and chicken fried rice.
Yes, shrimp and chicken fried rice. See, I like that answer. I like fried rice sometimes, but then sometimes you might be in the mood for like a sweet rice, you know? and some sugar on your white rice. What is your favorite color? Go.
Purple.
Ow! That means you like what I got on today.
Yes, I know. I love everything.
What is your favorite book, title, and author? Go.
The Battle of the Minds by Joyce Myers.
Yes, that is a great one. She has the book, the journal, the devotional. I actually led a room based off her devotional of that same title last year. Yes, from January 1st through I think it was April 10th for 100 days straight. It was on Clubhouse. It was called Devotional Time for Mindset. And we went through her prompts. It was really transformational.
It's a great book. Oh man, I love that book.
I've got it up there on my shelf. What is your favorite drink? Go.
Dr. Pepper.
I haven't had Dr. Pepper in a while. Now, do you like Mr. Pibb too, or you're like, it ain't the same. It ain't the same.
Mr. Pibb. That has that weird taste. I would say no. I like Dr. Pepper. If there's no Dr. Pepper, give me coffee. I'm good.
that off-brand taste, like okay.
I'm like, that don't taste the same. I'm good.
What is your favorite activity to do to relax? Go.
I would say Netflix and chill. I like to watch movies.
Now, are you really chilling or are you Netflix and chilling?
I'm really chilling.
Hey, hashtag no judgment zone, all right? So
I'm really chilling. I am so into Korean dramas lately. My husband tells me last night, he's like, Earth to Clarice. Hello. I'm all like, shh, I'm trying to read these subtitles.
Oh my goodness. Listen, quick funny story. When I should have went live whenever I did it, but I was so caught up in my moment because I like to talk to myself sometimes too. But whenever I visited Singapore in 2019, I was in my hotel room and I wasn't finding any English channels, and that's okay because I like to immerse myself in the culture when I travel. And so there was this one show that was on, and it just caught my eye. And I'm watching, not understanding a single word, but eventually I'm on the second episode because they were like playing back to back. And next thing I know, I'm like talking what I think they're saying. And I'm like changing voices, and I'm like, how dare you speak to me that way? And
oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
And I was having a good old time by myself in the hotel room. So it's funny that you're like, I'm trying to read the subtitles because I didn't have any subtitles. So I was literally like trying to figure out and read context clues as I was watching.
I can't have too much Netflix because the next thing you know, I'll be like not doing anything. My face is glued to my
As long as you know, right? It's like, all right, this is my 1 or 2 hours, and then I'm going to get back to it. It's whenever we're in overload and we don't give it a time frame is when it's a problem. But as long as you know, what is your favorite place to travel to? Go.
California.
Oh, where at in California?
Oceanside, just because that's where my mom is, and I love the beach. Living in the desert, I feel like a fish drying out. So I love to travel when I can. Like last year, I went to see my mom, and she lives right offshore. Like you could just walk outside her house, and the beach is right there. So I love going to California. I don't know about living there, but I'll visit there. Because it's expensive up there.
I have not yet been to California. I know.
No.
I know. Don't fault me. Don't fault me. Don't fault me.
Girl, you have been everywhere outside the U.S. And
every time I say that out loud, I feel like a little piece of me dies. Like, Lindsey, still? Let's see. What's your favorite movie? Go.
My favorite movie, I would say, is The Shack.
The Shack. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies.
It is such a great book. Have you read the book too?
No. I've been meaning to, but I haven't read the book. I heard it's great.
You got to read the book. I read the book first, and then I saw the movie. It's been years for both of them, but either way, still good. So if you've seen the movie, you definitely got to read the book too.
Jump on that and get me one. Yes.
Yes. So thanks for playing First Class Favorites. You know how Oprah has her little things. Well, we have our first class favorite things, okay? And some of those answers are actually going to be available on a uniquely curated list. If you are a member of our Patreon community, then you will have access to that list. If you are not, make sure you subscribe and join now, because we have our first class favorite books, songs, so playlists you can get down to, and places to travel and relaxing activities. All four of those are curated by your First Class Life show guest. Yes. So your answers, some of them will be added to that list. And it's just a running.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So it's really fun to just watch it grow and see all the different answers. That is available to our Patreon family. Okay, so make sure you join. Meanwhile, let's get back into this discussion. So we talked about you having the rejection and abandonment after your father left and being that people pleaser and codependency and things like that. Then we talked about you experiencing the depression. And so at what moment did it become suicidal ideation? If you wouldn't mind sharing that journey with us.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't mind. I would say, I'll try not to be as vivid of it, but I started self-harm. It started as self-harm since I was 16 when I got adopted, and I was going through sexual abuse at that time. So every time that it happened, I started like cutting myself. I think that's why I have a tattoo on where it was, like all my scars where it says Jeremiah 29. But it really became into an actual suicide attempt when my husband and I separated. And I remember I was just in the bathroom sitting there. I actually created a video for this for my book. I relived the whole thing, which was kind of crazy. But I was in the bathroom. I got the bathtub ready. And I just remember I was in so much pain that nothing was making me feel better. No alcohol, no hanging out with friends, no movies, no food, nothing. And I didn't care anymore. I just wanted the pain to go away, because every time I go to bed, I felt the pain in my dreams. And I wake up, I feel the pain. So it's like it was constant 24/7. I'm just in pain. And it turned into a physical pain to where like I started having heart issue. Like it was just like, it became a plethora of like pain. And so I just wanted to end it. So it was that one night I was sitting there and I was hearing voices. Okay. When people say when you're going through like suicidal like attempts, they really do hear voices. You do hear that subconscious thoughts, like, and they start overpowering you. And you start hearing them like, yeah, just do it. It's okay. Nobody's going to care anyways. Just do it. And you start talking, and then you start talking to yourself and agreeing to it, you know? And then once you start agreeing to it, I was so shocked because I even prepared everything. I had the tub ready. I had the water ready. I picked the actual tool I'm going to use to end my life, like everything. I was ready to go in the tub naked and just like, yep, that's it. We're going to do this. And then it got to the point that it was like, I felt the fear at the same time. I was scared. I was scared that I'm like, I'm doing this. And I just remember hearing like God and just hearing something and like just telling myself like, get your butt up. Like, I'm not done with you yet. What are you doing? And I remember running outside my house and I was like, oh my God, I don't know. I called my best friend and I was like, I need you to come pick me up. I can't be alone. Because that was when that moment that my aloneness was taking the best out of me already. The voices inside my head. That's a good book. The voices inside my head. I'm like, that is a good book title. The voices inside my head.
In my head, I was like, ooh, that sounds like something. That's the title to something. And then you said it.
the voices inside my head was just like, it was so intense. So I would say that was a time when that kind of came to that. Like built up of like hiding it and like just deep sorrow, like that deep pain. So if you have friends or family that, you know, have gone through losing and grieving is like horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is like the worst. And so it's like the pain that you feel, it was like, I immersed in it. I became the pain. I wore it. You know how like they always say like you wear your emotion in your shoulders. Like you're wearing your like all that. Like, yeah, I sure did. I was sadness. I was anger. I was like upset. I was betrayal, like everything. I wore all of that and it became me. And it almost took me out because of it.
Thank you for being transparent and being vulnerable with us. You know, I know that we appreciate, and I speak on behalf of all of the First Class family that's tuned in right now. We appreciate you. We are grateful that you are still here and sharing your story. And I definitely wanted to touch on that because I know that as leaders, we can feel alone despite the smile we may wear or despite how we're doing great things in the community or in our business or in our families with our friends. We can have those moments where we feel alone. And it's important that we recognize those times and that we reach out whenever we can, because oftentimes there are people that are struggling with the same thing. And it's so crazy because I've had the opportunity to speak with a lot of leaders, high achieving leaders, and a lot of successful men and women. And you would be surprised how many of these successful people have had moments where they contemplated suicide, and for some of them even attempted suicide. And so I definitely think that it's important that we address this as leaders because it does affect us as leaders. We like to think that it doesn't, but it affects us. It affects other people that are not in leadership roles, but definitely it affects us as leaders. So again, thank you for sharing. One more thing along those lines. I know you said you called your friend to let her know, like, I can't be alone right now, but tell us a little bit about that recovery process and how you started to mend what was to get back to who you
That was a very long journey. When I called my friend, I moved out. I moved out of that place. I completely uprooted myself from the house that we've lived in for years because the walls felt like was talking to me. The images were talking to me. So I told my friend, I was like, I'm moving out. I can't live here. I have to find me again. I had to find my voice because the voices in my head is now talking for me. I had no more voice. So I had to find my voice and be able to take back control of my emotion because my emotion was taking control of me. I did a lot of hiking. You know how that movie what is that movie with Eat, Pray, and Love? I literally went and did that. I went became like a adrenaline junkie. I took everything that I was feeling as pain and turn it into something else. I started hiking by myself. My friends hated it because they're like, oh my God, you're going by yourself. But I was like, in my head, I was already ready to die. So I would rather take that energy that I'm feeling and turn it into something else. So I would hike by myself. And because of that hiking, I discovered what? Strength, my courage. I discovered new places I've never been. I started to figure out like, oh, I do like these things. Even though I was scared out of my mind, I'm all driving. I'm like, oh my God, I think I got lost. But you know what? Whatever. So I was already lost and I was trying to find me while I was lost. So like hiking became my number one like outsource. I went and just took chances that I never thought I should take because I was afraid. I'm like, oh man, I can't do that. So just turning that negative, what I was feeling, into something else, even though I knew it was still kind of, I had the same outcome. Like I didn't care if I die, if I fell off the floor or whatever. But it was like it turned into something else because as I had that, my mind was starting to shift because subconsciously my body was shifting because I'm doing something different than the monotonous same thing over and over, expecting a different result, sitting at home, wallowing and watching Netflix and not doing anything. So I started doing something that made me feel better, like I went to like a hot sauna, yoga. I was like, oh my God, I'm dying in here. But like that feel that I'm alive is what got me out of it. Tried hot yoga. I went hiking. I went and drove to the freeway. I never drove to the freeway. My husband always drives me in the freeway. And then I started driving in the freeway. And then I became a crazy driver in the freeway. And then like I started like hanging out with people more, trying different restaurants and like just dating myself again so that I can feel okay being alone.
Yeah.
That it's not a bad thing.
Feeling okay being alone. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. So as we wrap up, I have another question for you. If you are new to the First Class Life show, then let me inform you that First Class Life is actually an acronym of all the different characteristics and skills that you want to try to embody into your lifestyle so that you can create a life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. And if you want to know what those factors are, then there's two ways you can find out, okay? So the first way is you can go all the way back to episode 1 of the First Class Life show where I explain each of them in detail, or you can visit firstclasslifeshop.com and just buy the book First Class Life, 10 Key Factors to Creating a Life Full of Purpose, Fulfillment, and Happiness. Okay? That's where you can find out what it means, each of those factors. But meanwhile, I want to ask the beautiful Coach Claire, which factor do you feel that you resonate with the most?
For me, I would say faithful.
Mm-hmm. Now you got to tell
Faithful.
us why. I'm sure like we kind of gauge from the discussion. If you're just tuning in, make sure you go back and watch the replay, okay? Run it back. But go ahead and explain why you chose that one.
I would say faithful because even at the end, I was faithful to know that we were going to reconcile. I was faithful to know that no matter how hard my life gets, there's still the best yet to come. Like I've always had that it's like in my head, like I've always persevered no matter what. Mm-hmm. And so that's where my faith that's why my faith's always tested, because I've always been faithful with my marriage, faithful with everything I commit myself to. If I say I'm 100%, I am faithfully 100%. And so I've always been faithful with people, like with God. Like I would just say with everything that I do, I always have faith knowing that everything will be okay and that I'm always going to be there. Like if I said so, I'm right there.
Yes. So F stands for faithful in First Class Life. And I love that you actually mentioned both dynamics of that without even realizing, because there's faithful in your spirituality, understanding that no matter what your beliefs are, that there is something outside of us, that there is a purpose bigger than us, and it will all work out for our good if we remain faithful. And then 2, faithful in who you are as a person, because it can also be defined as being dependable and reliable. So knowing that when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. And you remain the same on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday as you do on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, right? Not that we don't have varying days of emotions, but overall, who you are as a person, I'm sure we've had those moments where it's like, oh, which Karen we gonna get today? Like, and you gotta walk on eggshells. That's not being faithful, okay? So I love that you mentioned both sides of being faithful. Thank you for sharing. So tell us a little bit about your business very quickly, and then what do you have as far as services, products, or how can people, if they want to just get more of who you are and what you do, tell us about that.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much, Miss Lindsay. This is such a great platform. I am a certified life coach and I am a creative entrepreneur, which that means I do have my own photography. I am a traveling photographer.
Hey.
So I do travel. And I do graphic design. So as a business, if you are in need of graphic designs or trying to upgrade your marketing photos, that would be me. And as far as certified life coaching, I am a transformational coach. I focus on using your past trauma and use that to something greater than you are. To channel that person out of you and make you better than you were before, using those pains, turning it into beauty. Right now, currently, I don't have a class going on, but I do have a one-on-one sessions that I have for my coaching. Since the year just started, I just finished a 6-week transformation coaching class last year, but you can reach me on Facebook. Just look up Claire May Photography for my photography and design, and Clarice or Claire Cregger on my Facebook. I also have an international women's empowerment ministry called Broken but Beautifully Made. I can't believe it. We're celebrating our 3rd year this year. Yes, and I'm about to host my 4th annual conference. And so I'm so honored because last year we fed over 100 children in Philippines. And we're going to be feeding them for the next 6 months, so until May. From everything that I made profit on my conference last December is now being given to the children every single month for the next 6 months. And so that's happening again in December. So stay tuned for that. But yes, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook. It's all the same word, Claire May Photography or Claire Cregger or Broken but Beautifully Made.
Nice. Make sure y'all reach out. Make sure y'all check out the conference. All of that info will be in the description, so you can check it out. You can click on her links and everything there. I want to thank you for being a phenomenal guest. And thank you to those that are tuned into the First Class Live Show. I know you could be doing anything in the world, but you have spent your time here with us, and we do not take it lightly, okay? We are forever grateful. And remember that you have the ability to just master your mindset so that you can maximize your impact and create your first-class life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. With that said, make sure you join our Patreon community where you can get access to bonus footage and to our first class favorite things list so that you can just keep on growing and developing. All right. So I love you guys. Peace out. Catch you on the next time. Bye. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. But please be sure to subscribe to the First Class Life Show. And don't forget to rate, leave a review, and join our private community so that we can continue to provide you with great personal development conversations to help you maximize your impact while creating a life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. You deserve it. Do you want to be surrounded by other high-achieving women who are working on their goals just like you? Are you looking for your circle that's passionate about their own growth yet still wants to see you shine? Do you desire to be supported through collaborations and connections instead of competition? Then Cowork and Chill is your place to be. Cowork and Chill is a hybrid of virtual co-working and virtual networking. It's a community of women who are striving to build living legacies. This is the space to create meaningful relationships with other equally yoked women where you're being poured into just as much as you pour out. So if you're looking for your crew for supportive accountability, then sign up today at coworkandchill.com. That's COWORKANDCHILL, coworkandchill.com.